got a new project I'm working on that I want to show off. So anyone who knows me knows that I like talking about video games. And if you talk to me about video games, there's a good chance I'm going to somehow find a way to shoehorn in talking about specific games that I really like, and one of them is the original Fallout. In my last video where I talked about a bunch of old projects that have kind of gone by the wayside and that I've lost. There was one where I talked about this little project I made that was just a proof of concept where I had this hexagon grid and I figured out how to do pathfinding, and that was really all it was. It was just a little proof of concept project that to show I could do that kind of thing. Anyway, I wanted to bring that back because obviously, unsurprisingly, perhaps the original inspiration for that was Fallout. It was a hex-based grid-based hex-based game, and I've made this little level editor to create Fallout or to create levels in that style. So, first of all, let me see if I can find my little guy. I've got my little guy, and he does his pathfinding. These red hexagons just show up to I was using them to help me debug the pathfinding system and try to make things more optimal. So you can move him around, and he goes around in his little grid. And if I turn him off, I can make these levels by putting in these individual components. And wow, we made a little room. You can press T to toggle transparency so you can kind of see what's going on. It's got box selection, so you can select individual things, delete them, replace them, and you can do you can change textures of things. You can change this texture scale. Link that you can. Hot doggy. You can add roofs, but there's no system in the game right now to like toggle the transparency of the roof when you're inside of a building, so they don't look too great. Another nice system I have is the box selection will select everything. So if I want to just select these roof tiles, I can one by one click them with the shift to add them. Another thing you can do is just right click on whichever thing you want to select. Box selection will then only select those. And there we go. We've given a unique texture to the roof. It's also got a file management system. So if I type down here, house, whoops, shouldn't use ease because that's the hotkey to turn off the level editor. Let's just call it HM, and we press F1. That saves it, kind of invisibly. And then if we press F2, that loads it. For the next demonstration, I'll bring up something a little more detailed. This is recreation of a building that was actually in Fallout 2. It's the Buckner building for anyone who's curious, in Klamath. That's why it's KL. Let's turn our little guy back on. The pathfinding is automatically updated when you build these levels. The pathfinding is not perfect by any means. You probably noticed he took a weird little road around there. There's some optimizations I can do to that for sure. And another nice little feature that I've added to this, which is not something I'm sure will be in the final game if I end up turning this into a game. I don't even know what I'm really doing with this. I'm just kind of having fun with it. But if you press F, let me get in here and turn the level editor off first. You can go into this first-person view. And from here, you can navigate the world as you would in any other first-person game. The collision is still intact, but it uses the hex grid, and it basically, all it does is it points forward, and when you're pressing or when your character is moving in that direction, it looks and it says, hey, is the next spot you're about to be in a hex that is blocked? If so, you're not moving. So it's a very simple collision system, and it's pretty janky. So I think what I might end up doing with this system is maybe just having it so that you can't move, but if you want to go into first person to kind of get a different perspective on the environment, then you can like come back out to this and reposition and then go into a different room and look around. Maybe I'll keep the movement in, but it feels really jank to use, so I might have to create some other secondary system for the collision if that is really a feature that I'm concerned about. But yeah, that's basically it. It's this little level editor. Yeah, you can see again the pathfinding could use some work. I know a few things I need to do, but haven't set it up yet. What's next for this? As far as the level editor goes, I want to implement levels. I think it would be cool to have, like in the original Fallout, you could there were buildings with multiple levels, but they were all their own unique scenes. So a character couldn't follow you from level 1 of a facility to level 2 of a facility. It just wasn't a possibility in the game. So I think that would be interesting. That could make some interesting combat situations as well. One of the other things I like about the way that I've set this up is all of these wall segments are individual pieces. So it would be pretty easy to put a system in the game where, let's say you had an explosive or a rocket launcher. You could, aim it at or place it on one of these walls, blow your way in. That creates some really interesting tactical opportunities for combat scenarios. So I think that's kind of an interesting feature. And similarly with the levels system that I have, you could blow the floor out from underneath somebody, and not only would that obviously hurt them because there's an explosion underneath them, but they would then fall down a number of levels, and that might really open up some interesting, especially stealth ways to deal with different types of encounters. So I think that sets up. I think it's an interesting idea to make the sandbox a little more interactive, I guess. Obviously, this is just one aspect of this whole journey. There's so many other systems in a game like this. I've got some ideas and a little bit of code written for an inventory system. Obviously, I'll need a dialogue system, a character system. I've got some design work done on that. An inventory system. I think I said dialogue already. Combat system, obviously. I'm thinking of doing turn-based, very similar to the original Fallout games, but I think I've been watching Tim Kane's videos a lot, and one thing he said he wished that he had done differently in the original Fallouts is perhaps to have enemies move all at the same time. And I think I would probably do it a little bit different, so it would be like groups move all at the same time. So you have your turn, and then like maybe all of your companions move at once, and then like all of faction A moves, and then all of faction B moves, and then all of like the animals move or whatever. Put them into some sort of groups, which in turn-based games, like especially in Fallout, there were some combat encounters that kind of slogged on because one character would move and attack, and it would take a long time. So I think that's something I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about different things with like regard to stealth systems and different ways to encourage that kind of play style, because I think that was it was definitely supported in the original Fallouts, but it was mechanically there was a lot of obfuscation of information. Like you really had no idea whether you were going to get caught while you were sneaking, and how much noise were you making. I've got some ideas for how to implement that differently. So I've got lots of ideas about where I'm going to go with this. This is a bigger project, and it's not something that is likely to see the light of day for ever, if I'm being perfectly honest. But it's just one of those things that this is kind of like just a love letter from me, and thinking like and looking back at Fallout and just wanting to have just the opportunity to make something like that. And obviously, I love designing systems and implementing them. So this is just obviously stage one, and I'll hopefully keep adding to it over time. But yeah, thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and have a great day. Adios.